Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk to you about my top 5 rogue decks for the Temporal Forces format. We are only just a few days away from the Temporal Forces release date, and I want to break down some of the under-the-radar decks. Some of the decks which haven't had that much coverage, or some decks which are a little bit more rogue category. Some that could do well at a local level, maybe even League Cup, and even potentially have a deep run at AM Regionals if it hits the right sort of matchup. So I'm going to break down exactly why these are some of my picks as well, the list as well. It's also some of the recent placements as archetypes have had. So without further ado, let's kickstart in my number 5 pick, which is Gouging Buyer. Now you might go, well, is it actually any good? The answer is it's okay, and I've definitely put it under the rogue category. It had a lot of heat because it has a very, very strong second attack for 2 fire and a colors, 260 damage, which is very, very good. But the caveat is you can't use this attack until it leaves the active spot and goes back into active. Now, it's one of those things where the Pokemon try not to have like the you can't attack next turn, but having that guarantee where you can't attack until you switch out is a really good sort of caveat for this one. I really like this archetype, and if we just look at this deck here, this is very similar to a list I got top 8 a few weeks ago. It is very, very strong. Now, we have the Pokemon Go Moltres to boost up that damage to get to that magic 280 damage very, very easily. And to get that, you can also chuck a maximum belt to one-hit KO Charizards, which is also very, very strong. Two very good single price attacking options in this archetype. Moltres, which does more damage when you switch it from the bench to the active. We play a lot of switching cards, so this card makes a lot of sense. And the Radiant Charizard as well. Again, if you have 3 Moltres Pokemon Goes in there plus a maximum belt, you're one-hit KOing Charizard on a single price Pokemon. That is very, very nice. One thing this deck does struggle with is energy acceleration. Now you might go, Charlie, you play Sada, Magma Basement, and Mala. Yes, but those are all temperamental ones. You've got to get them all set up. So having a Flutter Mane is a really good option. Flutter Mane makes sure that any of the opponent's active Pokemon's abilities have no effect. So this slows down the likes of Lost Box, Shimpao, it sometimes even likes of Charizard if it's in the active spot, which I think is a very, very strong sort of factor to really help you just get that little bit edge in the game. Plus also you can actually attack with it because it's an ancient Pokemon and you play Sada. Now, as we play a lot of other ghost Pokemon, we have to play lots of switching cards and energy switch as well. This means you can attack with Mew EX if you really feel like it, or switch between your Gouging Fire and Entei as really good as they are your main attacking threats. EXP share to make sure the energy stay around the field, and it boosts energy boost capsule to really make sure you have as much HP as possible. I really like this deck. I think it could do okay into Charizard, but it can struggle against the likes of Shimpao because they can really outprice you. Sometimes as well as likes of Arctina. They have a lot of HP and you have a lot of damage modifiers to really hit those big magic numbers all the time. That's why it's just a little bit under the radar. That's why it's my number 5 pick. My number 4 pick, however, is a dark type which has had a lot of love and mixed messages for a Raging Bull. This is an art deck which a lot of people want to do well because it reminded them had a very, very strong attack. 70 damage times the amount of energy you discard from all your Pokemon in play. Now, that is incredible. 4 energies is 280 damage. 5 is the magic number, which 350, which KOs pretty much everything. What's the limitation? Well, it needs a lot to set up. You need your Sada setup, you need your Standing Shocks, and sometimes even the Lost Zone engine. It's actually having a lot more success. If we just look at the City League, it has actually had some good results. Getting a couple wins and multiple top 8, which is actually a really, really good thing. A lot of people did think it could be like a Reshiram tag team, and that kind of definitely flopped, but that was hyped to be one of the strongest cards. This is definitely a little bit of a flop, but I would say it's definitely a lot more in that road category. It could really survive. If we look at this list here, this is the one that I've been really playing around with, and I really, really like this one. Having the heavy EXP share, make sure you're not reliant on Standing Shocks, and you can really have more energy acceleration if one of your Crydon or Raikou actually does, not Raikou, Ancient Raikou, Raging Bolt does in fact fall down. Prime Catcher I think is a really good inclusion as your ace spec of choice, because you're not going to have a ton of ancient Pokemon, so Awakening, Drum of Awakening wouldn't actually make as much sense, so having a guaranteed gusting effect is super strong. Unlike most decks which are focused around the Cider package, you really are heavy on trying to get that to energy acceleration. That's where the Standing Shots can really help after your opponent has taken one knockout. Granted, yes, if you having a proccing effect after something which has been like your opponent's closer to winning the game, it's a little bit more disheartening, but actually it does work. It is a few cards away from being absolutely perfect, but I think this is a really good strong rogue archetype to go in the format. Now, if you want to play it something a little bit different, you have the Lost Zone package as well, which is actually doing really, really well over there in Japan. I would say it's definitely a bit more of a stronger engine. If you are used to a Lost Zone build, play this one here. Having Iron Hands is really good in Lost Box, so you guarantee to get an extra prize card from any of your single prize Pokemon your opponent has in play. Plus Raging Bolt, like you can work this really well. Sada and Mirage Gates, it can be a really good late game finisher, whereas you have like some other really strong sort of attacking threats like Greninja, Sableye, Cramorant, and also even Slithering if one of your opponent's active Pokemon is in fact knocked out. I really like this build. I think it's a very, very strong sort of Lost Zone sort of engine to go with a special Raging Bolt. But again, it's a little bit under the rogue factor because how energy hungry this Raging Bolt is, it's only really like a finisher in a Lost Box deck. Number 3 pack is actually Espathra, and this is definitely a bit on the rise from how powerful likes of Charizard is. It has two amazing things going for it. Its ability means as long as it's in the active spot, any of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless more, which is actually pretty strong. Charizard needs 3 energies now to actually hit Espathra, and also has a very good attack, 30 plus 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. This reminds me a ton of Yveltal. And the reason why it's so good is because they can actually have a pretty okay Charizard matchup. You can flood the board with a ton of energy from the likes of Narcoon, have Espathra to make sure your opponent always has to have additional energy attached to it so it can actually damage you. And honestly, it is very, very powerful. And you can see this by actually getting quite a few city wins as well. I actually really like Espathra going into the format. Now, this is very similar to a winning list, and honestly, it's very strong. Your Charizard matchup is pretty good because Espathra can make sure that it can have a very high HP from the likes of Hero Escapes. It can be very difficult for a Charizard to actually one-hit KO you, and also have that Dazzling Glare and the attack can try and actually one-hit KO Charizard turn after turn after turn. Plus, also, the deck plays Crushing Hammer. You might go, this seems a bit counterintuitive, but in some archetypes where you need like they don't need that many energy to attack, getting that Crushing Hammer is really, really strong. I absolutely love this in this style deck here. Having the TM Devo makes sure that some matchups as well can be a bit easier. Like Shimpao. Shimpao is a very difficult matchup for you to kind of deal with because they never have any energies on the field and you can't really one-hit KO them turn after turn after turn. So having that TM Devo really helps you in that Shimpao to get rid of their cheeky Baxcaliburs, which are going to cause you a lot of problems. Like I said, you play the 3/3 Natu to have that draw factor in the deck, which gets you Energy Accelerate from your hand, get to draw 2 cards afterwards, which I really, really like. You have some really good support Pokemon in this archetype. Mimikyu, Cleffa, and Fluttermane. Mimikyu to stall out, but also can deal some damage out there. Cleffa to try and like refresh your hand, which is actually really, really good in the early game. And Fluttermane, as I mentioned before, Lost Zone is definitely on the rise. So having this sort of counter to it is really, really strong. And also to really help you kind of like get your setup that you require. I actually am a big fan of this deck. Now, if you actually play the Team League headquarters and have the Espathra's ability, your opponents have 2 additional energies to attach to their basic Pokemon. That's like Roy Moon needs 5 energies to attack, or Gouging Fire needs 5 energies to actually attack, which is honestly just insane. And this means that Espathra can really, really like threat and win some games as well because it can actually be very unpredicted. I actually think this is a very good road pick. If you are definitely playing Charizard, test against this deck because you might go, oh, it's just a joke, but lots of its wins as Highland City Leagues are over likes of Charizard. So I would say as a rogue deck, this is a very, very strong pick, and it can actually help in quite a few matchups as well. So my number 2 pick is actually Arceus Vulpix. You might go, Charlie, this seems a little bit meta if we see a City League result and it actually got 2nd place at the Champions League. Well, it's actually a rogue archetype because it all depends on how the meta is sort of field. Now, I was very much debating putting this on my competitive list, which will actually be out on Friday. But I decided to put this on as my rogue archetype because you never know how the meta might feel. Why is this powerful? Well, we have Arceus, which has Trinity Nova to energy accelerate to most of your Pokemon. Then we have Vulpix V-Star, which has seen quite a bit of success here in Out of its lifetime. For 160 damage, you get to attack the active, well, obviously, but the limitation is that your opponent can't attack it if it has any abilities. So it prevents it from any likes of Charizard, Shimpao, and even fellow Arceus decks as well, because they can't actually damage the Vulpix as well, because it does in fact have an ability. So that's exactly why it's really strong. Now, my list, which I'm kind of going off, is very similar to the list that actually did get 2nd place at this Champions League, but I've actually changed it up to it. I've added a little tech card, Poppy. Now, why do I think Poppy is actually a really good card in this one? I think this is a very good pick because it can actually team up well with Radiant Greninja. It can be definitely a bit of a surprise tick. You can play this one here and move 2 energies to your Radiant Greninja, attach for turn, and all of a sudden you can get 2 prizes from using a single prize Pokemon. This can really help you like some Charizard, some Shimpao, some Lost Zone, heck, even if we just seen the likes of Espathra getting some damage from on one of their opponent's bench Pokemon is really, really strong. Obviously, you play that Vulpix to really slow down your opponent, and we have some very good ways to kind of make sure you have a lone Vulpix in the field. Sharon's K and Professor Chiro scenario can really help you in that sort of matchup wise. Miss Energy to make sure it doesn't get one hit KO'd from the likes of the Roaring Moon or even Lost Tina, which can be just a little bit difficult. And V-Guard actually attached to an Arceus V makes sure that the Giratina can't actually one-hit KO with that normal Lost Impact. They have to use like some Star Requiem, but that's why Miss Energy is very, very strong. Rest of the deck is a very, very straightforward archetype from how we're seeing this one. You want that disruptive, your item cards, you really want to have that little bit of that switching, plus also that search vector. Try and get your board set up as much as possible. I really like this deck. I think it's a good sort of rogue pick, and actually has a very good match against most of the meta game, like Charizard, Shinpao, and even the likes of Lost Zone at time. But what is my number one rogue pick? Well, if you've been paying attention to my polls, you will know that it's actually going to be Dialga. Yes, this is a very, very fun rogue deck, and Dialga might actually finally have some love purely on the release of this Metang. Why is Metang very good? Well, when you evolve into it, and once per turn, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach as many energies like that to your Pokemon in play. Now, this is what makes Metang even better. Those spare cards don't shuffle back in. Nope, they go at the bottom of the deck. So it limits you to draw into that factor. And you have a higher chance of drawing into more and more energies. Why is this really, really powerful? Well, you can power that Metal Blast attack for Dialga, which can deal a huge amount of one-hit KO potential, but that very, very hungry 5 energy Star Cronus attack, so you can gain an additional turn and potentially win just from that factor. This is a list I've been kind of playing around with, and a list which I actually think is really strong. It's similar to likes of what Mahone has been playing, as well as also some of the winning lists which have been doing very, very well. The TM evolution is really, really powerful because you can evolve your Metang, but also your Dialga V-Star, which actually is sometimes what exactly you need to have to really keep into the game, and you don't need to rely on drawing into that one because you only do play 3 copies of Ultra Ball. Rest of the deck is very, very strong. You can see there's 16 energies, which is a ton, but that's where you want to get that big energy acceleration from Metang, so you can get that big Metal Blast or even Star Cronus to get those big one-hit KOs pretty much as early as turn 2 or maybe 3 if you have your board straight. The Zamazenta is a very good sort of other attacking option, making sure that you can do 220 damage from a single prize Pokemon if one of your Pokemon was in fact knocked out. Prime Catcher is your aspect of choice, purely because you want to have that good gusting effect, because you want to try and get you to Arvin all the time to make sure you've got all the setups for your Metangs, but having that Prime Catcher, that instant dust effect and searchable from Arvin is really, really strong. So that is actually my picks for the rogue archetypes. What do you think of them? Do you agree with any of where I place these archetypes? Is there any rogue decks which you think I missed? I do think that Dialga, V-Star, and also Alolan Vulpix are really, really strong. We're actually seeing right now in this format that V-Stars are one of the strongest they've actually been in the format right now. I am a big, big fan of these fun rogue decks, and even some of the newer ones like Gouging Fire and Raging Bolt, could they actually see a little bit of play? And can Espapra actually keep Charizard in check? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to like, subscribe, and come back on Friday for Temporal Forces release date and my top 5 competitive picks for the Temporal Forces metagame. See you then. Bye for now.